The following is a Learfield presentation of the Washington State Sports Network. The future of Cougar football begins now.
After first contact, he's pushed into the end zone. John Mateer gives the Cougs back the lead.
The Cougars Signing Day Special.
Looking to pitch it. He does the last second. The Cougs get the stop. The Cougs get the stop.
I think these coaches have gone out and they've hit the pavement and they've found guys.
The Washington State Sports Network presents the Cougars Signing Day Special, presented by Northern Quest Resort and Casino. Earn bragging rights at Northern Quest in Spokane, Washington, with more slot machines, table games, restaurants, lounges, and luxury hotel rooms than anyone else in the region. Northern Quest. Yes, the best. More at northernquest.com. Here's the voice of the Cougs, Chris King.
Welcome into the Cougar Football Complex here on the 5th floor. What an exciting day. It is signing day, and we've got a packed morning of coverage for you to get you all up to speed on the latest Cougs. Will be part of the program moving forward. Sitting next to Alex Brink. Alex, here we are. We were at that game on Saturday. We're awaiting the fate of where the Cougs end up for a bowl. Looking forward to that. But here we are. Every year, this is such a fun day to find out about these guys that everyone's going to be cheering for out on Giesa Field for years to come.
You know, it's a really exciting time. I think back to, my own experience getting recruited, and I'm old enough to say that I had to fax in, my letter of intent. Went down to the local Staples and sent it through FedEx, obviously. But it is really special, right? Like these young men and the way that college football is changing and all the things that we talk about, there's still an element where these young men worked really hard to get to this point in their life, and they get to put pen to paper and send it in and say, I'm a Washington State Cougar. And they're excited about that. The coaching staff's excited about that. In some ways, it's life-changing for lots of them. Coug fans are going to get to cheer these guys on, and they're going to get to experience the magic of the Palouse and all that Washington State has to offer. And again, from my own experience, I know what that means. I know what it can bring. And to say it's life-changing is not hyperbolic. It's very real.
That's a great way to put it. And I just think about all the investment it takes to get to this point of your family, of your coaches, your youth coaches, your high school coaches, everyone that pours themselves into you to get you ready to be a player at this level. And this is just a cool moment to be able to celebrate that today. And there are 23 new Cougs signing today. So we'll get you set up for our coverage here. We've got 2 hours of coverage. We're so excited to have a lot of conversations to go in depth on this class for the Cougs. We will have the head coach of the Cougs, Jake Dickert. That'll be coming up in our next segment. Rob Schlager, the general manager of the WSU football program, will stop by as well. Pete Caligas, assistant head coach, also works with the defensive tackles, will join us. Jared Castor, offensive line coach, will stop by. We'll also have Alan Brown, cornerbacks coach, join us. Nick Edwards, the wide receivers coach, and also Joel Diaz-Romero, director of recruiting. And in there as well, Nick Whitworth, who is the special teams coach and coaches tied in. So we've got so much to get to as we break down this class. 23 members of it. Alex, right now, we'll just kind of list everyone off, and then we'll kind of jump in from there, and just excited to talk about these names as Cougs for the first time that we're looking forward to chatting about a bunch over the years. David Kuku and Malijah Tucker, those are the Washington guys. Oregon, Jack Foley, Cash Landau, and Peyton Reed. California, Lucan Ami Tuanai, he's coming from California, one of 9 guys. Sean Embry Jr., Ishmael Gibbs, Seal Pizzella, that's the quarterback of the class, and of course we'll be talking about him. Jamar Searcy, Jamari Smith, Luke Webb, Noah Westbrook, and Arion Williams. Those are the California guys. From Texas, Kyle Peterson, Josiah Pratt, and Galen McNeil. Colorado, Aiden Napke, and Aiden Martin. Nevada, A.J. Tuitele. Nebraska, Turner Bertrand. Michigan, Leon Vaughn. And then from Illinois, Jovan Clark. So we're going to be talking about these guys a lot, and there's a lot of ways that we can break it down. What kind of comes to your mind first as we just list everyone off for the first time?
Well, I know everybody wants to talk quarterbacks, right? I mean, that's always the hot topic, and I think, this is a fun one. I think Steele is a really good player and a guy that, you look at as a sophomore, he had offers from Georgia, Arizona, he had Kansas, Minnesota came in late during his senior year. So, he's very much a Power 5 coveted player. And, I think as his career went on, he's just a little bit smaller guy for sure. I mean, he's in that kind of 5'11" range, but that's not prohibitive at quarterback nowadays. I mean, that's his athleticism. And when I talk about dual threat, I mean, he's a 10-6 100-meter dash guy. That is, for those that don't follow, that is really fast, like faster than most wide receivers and defensive backs. So, I mean, elite level speed and playmaking ability. He's shown, the explosiveness. I was talking to the staff and talking to everybody in the lead up to this. So in the spring, the coaches get to go out and they get to do spring workouts, right, on the recruiting trail, and they see a lot of these players. And they said at the spring workout, Steele threw a ball 74 yards in the air. When you talk about regardless of frame, size, like, he's got a big arm and he's a great athlete. So I love that part of it. But you watch him on tape and, like, you see the ability to get the ball out in the quick passing game, which is obviously important, at this level of football, RPOs, those sort of things. Look, in the end, the quote I got was, "We feel like he fell into our lap." Right, a guy that they got, he was loyal to them, to the staff, and obviously through some changes and all those sort of things, still put pen to paper. And so I'm super excited about getting Steele Pizzella in.
Yeah, there was one. It was a social media clip I saw pop up a few weeks back. I think it was the LA Times prep reporter of him busting out about an 80-yard run. It was like, whoa,
right. I saw that
whoa.
One. Yeah.
And there, as you mentioned, his numbers with what he did as a junior, what he did in the 100-meter. He helped his school to the 4x100-meter relay finish 4th in the state. And his numbers from the senior year, over 2,600 yards through the air, 29 touchdowns, 60% completion percentage, rushed for over 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns, had 3 100-yard games on the ground. So Coug fans have been able to enjoy seeing what it's like to have that kind of dual-threat quarterback with that speed, and someone in this class who definitely will be adding that.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, offensively, the other big takeaway that I had from this recruiting class and talking to the staff and Rob Schlager, the GM, was the wide receiver position. Cougs went big. They got some big pass catchers. And, last year it was speed and smaller stature guys, and they really addressed a need of going big. And you look at 6'4" Sean Embry Jr., 6'4" Jack Foley, 6'1" Noah Westbrook. All of them bring kind of different traits at those sizes, but it's different than, last year 4 wide receivers come in all under 6 foot. And, I mean, they had flat speed. I mean, we've seen a lot of those guys already touch the field a little bit, and they're very excited about that group. I like the direction to go get some bigger wide receivers. I think that's going to really complement what's already on the roster. Get some guys on the outside. Jack Foley's one that I know they're super excited about. Was kind of an early commit, ended up flipping to Wake Forest, and then flipped back to Washington State. Is a Northwest kid from Oregon. I know him super well. He's from Bend, very close in our program with E-Force, and he's a kid that's worked really hard to get here. And at 6'4", 200 pounds, he can go up and get the football. He's got all the ability to run the entire route tree, so super polished from that standpoint. He's also a competitor, and that's one thing I was talking to Rob Schlager about. He wants guys in this staff, and Coach Dickert, they want guys that compete and love football, because it's a hard enough sport as it is, right? And so they're looking for that on tape. I mean, the evaluation process goes really deep, and you see that across the board with this class. I think is a lot of guys that love ball, love to compete, and that's a reason that they're signing and coming into Pullman.
So the wide receivers, 3 total signing as part of this class. And then at running back, we just saw last year what kind of an impact a true freshman can make. And Wayshawn Parker was an early enrollee, and we'll have a number of early enrollees in this class. We'll touch on that. But one running back in this class, and from Northern California, which is an area that has, of course, treated the Cougs so well over the years. Very
much so. And, this is, with Jamar Searcy, it's a guy that you really like for 2 reasons. The NorCal piece of it, he's from Pittsburgh High School, which is a really competitive high school in Northern California. Cal came in super hard on Searcy late, so Coug fans feel good about Washington State recruiting at that level. But compact runner, 5'8", 170 pounds, will probably get to 185, 190 pounds when he gets here. We talked about on our broadcast all the time when we see those smaller backs, they're kind of harder to tackle, and he's that type of guy. He got some craft and some power, but he's a 10'9", and you see that he had multiple runs on his tape of 75-plus yards. He can get out and go, and so coaches love his contact balance. He doesn't go down off the first hit. He's going to be able to get in between the tackles, even at a smaller back, and then break tackles and go. And so I think Searcy is a nice complement to what's already on the roster. You're going to have a little bit more of a home run hitter, whereas the other guys definitely are more kind of in that range of power, strength, in the box type of guys. He can go get it a little bit. So a good addition at the running back position, and I think kind of rounds out that room in my opinion.
And that's hitting on just a handful of the guys here early, 23 total, kind of touching on quarterback, running back, wide receivers so far. But it is interesting on these recruiting areas because, we do see the traditional, of course, the state of Washington. We've already touched on some Oregon guys, Jamar Searcy from Northern California. But California, number one state, 9 of the 23 signees for the Cougs from California, 2 from Washington, 3 from Oregon. Texas, there's just so much talent in Texas. Cougs know that quite well from John Mateer and, of course, so many guys over the years. But beyond that, feels like the recruiting match really kind of stretched out further into the Midwest even.
Yeah, so I think there's a really interesting point about the geographies of the recruiting class and, where Washington State may look to recruit moving forward. Some of that is the roots of this staff. Obviously Jake Dicker from the Midwest and guys on staff, Rob Schlager from the Midwest and things like that. But it's also a very comparable kind of talent level to what you want, and you can go get some big bodies out of there. The other thing that's really important that I don't think of, because this is not my world to be in the recruiting world, but there's direct flights from those parts of the country. So you can get direct flights from Chicago, you can get direct flights from Minnesota, and so it's easier, right, in a recruiting world where kids and families want to stay connected to bring them in, you know what I mean? And so I think going and they got some big bodies in the out of the Midwest, right? They got some offensive linemen. I thought it was, that part of it was really interesting. I think pays dividends moving forward.
Well, looking forward to diving in more on these guys coming up. Again, we're coming to you live from the Cougar Football Complex. This is the WSU Signing Day Special presented by Northern Quest. We'll take a timeout. Our coverage will roll on after this. You're listening to Cougar Football from Learfield.
Coors Light presents To Chill or Not to Chill. When your friend skips your favorite song on the playlist. End of friendship. Or choose chill because that song lives rent-free in your head anyway. And you planned ahead by bringing Coors Light to the party. And the sound of that ice-cold can cracking open was music to your ears already. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Whether you root for the Zags or the Cougs, now's your chance to play for your favorite team. It's the Winning Colors Challenge at Northern Quest. Simply pick up your special Gonzaga or WSU Camas Rewards card now through November 30th and play as usual. Whichever fan base earns the most Camas points wins $10,000 for their program. Become a card-carrying Zags or Cougs fan during the Winning Colors Challenge only at Northern Quest.
This is the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield.
This Washington State University sports broadcast is brought to you in part by Pullman Regional Hospital, the official hospital of Washington State Athletics. The combined expertise of our university and our award-winning hospital are being deployed to provide greater access to resources, education, employment opportunities, and innovations to improve health care and health outcomes for all of us. Learn more at pullmanregional.org. Pullman Regional Hospital and Washington State, partners in excellence.
This Cougar football tailgating moment is sponsored by Brown Family Vineyards. Brown Family honors the legacy of founder Andrew Brown's late grandfather, William Bittner Brown. Every decision made, from farm to glass, reflects their commitment to premium Northwest wine and spirits. Whether you're visiting one of Brown's tasting rooms or opening a bottle in your own home, Andrew and his wife Courtney welcome you to their extended family where good friends, good food and wine, and good times are always on the agenda. Stop by one of our tasting rooms in Spokane, Walla Walla, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, or Portland and get 20% off a glass this season when you mention WSU.
Back at the Cougar Football Complex for the WSU Signing Day Special presented by Northern Quest. And here we are, the head coach of the Cougs, Jake Dickert. Always an exciting day. How are you feeling? Do you get much sleep the night before signing day when everything starts rolling in the morning?
I would say, Chris, I don't know if I've slept since Saturday. It is just a rolling through it to get to this point. Obviously, the big first for everybody. This is the first time signing day has been this early. The calendar constantly is changing. And, I actually found out I kind of enjoy it. But the biggest thing I miss is they took away those home visits. I didn't get a chance to go out there and get some home-cooked meals and get a chance to see where everyone comes from in that capacity. But an amazing moment, right? There's just so much hard work that goes into this, from coaches to support staff to recruiting, and we'll get into some of those specific people today, but it is just an amazing journey of a year's worth of work. Like, that's what today is. So I woke up at 4 a.m. energized. Like, let's go capitalize. Let's go sign these kids. Everything went really smoothly, and it's just it's a fun day to be a part of.
Coach, as I look through the whole list, and then talking to Rob Schlager and various folks on staff, I'm struck by the clarity in your guys' process of who you want, what type of player, what type of fit. And there's, it's interesting because there's kind of some analogs to either previous players or guys on the roster. Then there's, hey, here's a area of need, right? Size at receiver, or we want defensive tackles that are a little bit lower center of gravity, this, that, and the other. Talk a little bit about, how you guys approach that blueprint. And I know it's different for every position, but, very broad stroke.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the zoo collar mentality isn't just a punchline. We start with character traits, Brink. We talk with guys that are family over flash, right? Production over potential. And we don't like to fit anyone just in a little box, right? So we start with a big broad brush. We analyze our roster and our needs and where we need to go with that. But at the end of the day, from Rob, our GM, on down, there's a vision of what we want here. And I think when you establish a program, we're still in year 3. This is our 3rd recruiting class from a full-time 365-day production. But it is a year-long process. It isn't just taking guys off highlights their junior year, right? We'll never do that. That's one step. Then our guys are out in spring watching workouts and seeing these guys. Then we see them at camps, how they love to compete, how they interact. And I'm a huge believer in senior film production. Right, and we go out and see these guys live. Very thankful for a couple of our boosters to allow our coaches to go to Seattle and watch guys live when we are in California or this and that in bye weeks. Because how you respond to your teammates, how you respond to coaching, how you come out of the locker room matters to us, right? So it's finding the right fit over just a collection of talent. And I think that's what you see here with these 23 guys.
So those 23 guys, and obviously every class is different where you might need to beef up a little more. What were the positional kind of focuses on, hey, where we need to get a number of guys in?
Well, I think our philosophy and a developmental approach, maybe let's talk honestly, a little bit old school, right? We want to infiltrate from the bottom up. We want to develop our players. We want to get our guys. I think at the end of the day, every class starts and ends with getting a productive quarterback. It's the number one position in all of sport. I was joking with Brink. I said we got mini me tier, right? And that's not a knock on Steele and size, but this guy is dynamic. 2,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. He's a 10.6 100-meter guy. He's a junior. He's a mid-year enrollee, so he won't get his opportunity to run that 10.4, which he would. An amazing, smart competitor, the way he sees the game. So I think it always starts there. We're under the realization that we're going to have 7 senior offensive linemen next year, right? So we got to reload at that position with those 4 guys. And then I think you see tremendous balance across the board on defense with an emphasis on speed cover guys. We need to go to that position. We went with big power safeties last year, speed cover guys, right? And I think that's what this blend of talent is that you see across the defensive backfield.
Speaking on defense a little bit, I was kind of looking at some of the tape. The linebackers, Tuatelli and Clark, right? A little bit kind of different style players, but both hyper productive. Feel like they can step into a room and add some value there. And then those edges, Lucan and Luke Webb. Both those guys. Obviously, same thing, different types of players, but can really step into those rooms and make an impact.
And I think that's what you see, Brink. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. different styles. We never want too much of just one thing, so Lucan is that blend of power and aggression as an edge. I think he had over 10 sacks this year. Luke Webb is that small speed, power dynamo. He plays the game with an amazing energy. And then A.J. Tuateli, his length and size, the tackle numbers, over 100 tackles, state champion, just all the size potential that you would see in a player like that. And then Jovan Clark is he's just dynamic. To play a safety hybrid, down in the box, roll, blitz, intercept, just guys that have a lot of different type of tools, right, that we can fit in, in a different type of way into our defense. So a lot of guys that are just highly productive. And most importantly, those 4 guys we mentioned, just like the rest of these guys, it's amazing they're winners, right? The winning percentage here I'm looking at, they're 204 and 80. Right, so winners win, right? And that's the collection of the guys on our team. Over 21 playoff appearances of these 23 guys, 15 captains. So those are the type of things that when you see winning, even at a young level, you understand what it takes. So when they come here, that transition and the standard that we're going to demand of these guys, I think they're already used to it, and they bring that type of winning attitude to your football program.
Talking with the head coach of the Cougs, Jake Dickert here, the WSU Signing Day Special presented by Northern Quest. Sitting next to Alex Brink, breaking this one down. Excited to have 2 hours of our coverage here. And, right in front of you, one of the sheets of paper you brought in with you has a map of the U.S. Yeah. And it seems like this class, with these 23 guys, interesting to see just how far of a geographical net the program was able to cast.
Well, it's a blessing, and I think, obviously with the accessibility of information, right, you're allowed to do that, but it's still, you see the core. 14 of our guys are still from the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, 8 guys from California. We've done an amazing job kind of representing the Cali Cougs in that state. And then, we're always going to spread a net. So, Texas, we've had a good blend of different type of skill sets that come from Texas. And this is our first time. I'm really proud of it. 3 Midwesterners, right? So, Michigan, Illinois, in the great state of Nebraska are represented now. And it was really a unique year. I think every year nationally is created really different. And you look at the landscape across America for offensive line. This was the lowest depletion of offensive linemen that we've ever seen, right? So we spread that wide net. That took us to Liam Vaughn out there in Detroit, Michigan. And it's just like, man, this guy gets us. So you spread far and wide, you look, but you still got to get to know the player, and you can just feel their tape, right? And you can just feel the fit. And then when they get here, they fall in love with Pullman and Washington State, and then you see that it's the right fit.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very kindred spirits, right? Kind of the inland Northwest and then Midwest. Like when you get there, you can see why, like you said, maybe a kid in a family says, yeah, this makes some sense. And Chris and I were talking about before you came on, the accessibility of some of the direct flights that come in from there really helps. And some that candidly I hadn't thought about, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Like a kid can get here, his family can get there, and it's not as prohibitive as having to make a stop or two.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This is my pitch to Pullman Regional. I can't wait to get a flight to Denver or Salt Lake. You can help us out there. This would be exceptional, but all those things matter. You're going into a world where it's less just about staying regional and finding the best fit. I think kids are more apt to want to do that, but having their family play and be accessible even in a small remote town. And everyone that sits on my couch, they talk about Pullman. They talk about being a great place for their kids, being safe, obviously the community aspects of it and the education. So this is a holistic approach to telling these guys about Washington State. And it isn't just me as the head coach recruiting them. It's our whole community. It's the hotels. It's the restaurants. It's our alumni association. It's just the professors that show up on a Saturday and a Sunday to give their time to contribute to our program. So everyone that has the ability to touch these recruits is just huge and make a big impact on our program.
Well, throughout today, we're excited for the first time to get to tell the stories of these new Cougs, and you and the staff have lived it recruiting these guys. Any couple maybe stand out of some stories of whether it's connections or something that comes to mind when you think about this class and these 23 guys they'll be making their way to the program?
Well, I think that is the part that is new. I miss the home visits. Those are
the meals. No meals.
I miss sitting down. Well, the meals. Some are good. Some I got to choke down, right? But also, they come out and they got the baby baby pictures, right? And you got grandma telling stories of old times. Like, I miss that, right? So I told them in January when they finally let us come back out, like, even though these guys are signed, I want to go break bread with your family. I want to go be around. I want to do all those type of things. But you just get a couple guys that are like glue guys. You know, like Lucan has been a glue guy. Steele has been a glue guy. Like, they get in these group chats. They get a chance to talk about him. Adam Nack has been a glue guy. Like, guys have been committed to us since June. In this landscape is very challenging. And, you know, I'm not telling any secrets. There's been tons of players that have tried to been taken away from us, right? And I just appreciate that loyalty, that trust, that, you know, vision that we always constantly share with these guys. So, you know, I'm just excited, too, to watch a couple of these guys play basketball, right? You know, I told Aiden Martin, like, I want to come see you play hoops. I want to see these guys in a different type of element because we got tons of multi-sport guys. We got guys that just love being passionate about competing. You know, obviously some high-level track guys. And more importantly, like, this is our highest number of mid-year enrollees. We're going to have 9 of the 23 be here already in January. And the developmental process to that, I think it speaks a lot to the mentality of these kids. Not everyone's ready to do that. A young Jake Dickert at 17, I don't know if he was ready to leave high school early and go be on his own, but these guys are excited about that process, so we're excited about getting them on campus early.
And on that note, I mean, Wayshawn Parker was an early enrollee. Can you give some recent examples of maybe how big that is to get those guys in early and what kind of impact it makes?
I do believe in the next 10 years it will be kind of standard, right? Because when you look at the scope of, like, college football, like I was talking to Brink earlier, like, we have to get the calendar set, right? But it allows you to start the season, right, essentially January, you know, with your team, and you get to go through OTA spring ball, right? You get to go through the summer training, you get to go through fall camp, and that's a true season versus coming in the middle, I think is hard for these freshmen, right? So instead of taking that 10th semester at the end and using it for NFL training, you're putting it at the front, right? So it's really an investment, I believe, in yourself. Right, I said as long as you have the character traits to go out there and be out on your own, and we have an amazing support system of people that want to help these kids because they are sometimes 17 coming here early in college. So it's just a unique opportunity. But, you know, like you look through guys like Sean Embry. Like Sean's 6'4", still a baby giraffe at times when you're watching him on the field, right? I told him this morning I'm going to chain his ass to the weight room, right? We're going to get him we're going to eating those peanut butter and jellies downstairs, right? So it's just like you start that process. So by the time you get that first 6 months in, Coach Ben down in the weight room has gotten his claws into you. Man, it's amazing how they kind of take off and they build a really strong connection early with the team.
I can speak to that from my own personal experience where mid-year enrollment wasn't really a thing. And, like, as a guy that was 170 pounds coming out of high school, had to enroll in fall, right before fall camp, start and go. It's like that whole first semester in a way is, I mean, it's not wasted, but it's like you're chasing the whole thing down. You're trying to learn a playbook. You're getting into school. Then you finally get in the weight room. And, like, when I hit the weight room in December real hard, from December to March, like, you know, I put on 20 pounds, you know, and it was like, if that could have happened the previous January, especially with the rules of, you know, most freshmen get a chance to play, as you know, with the redshirt rules and all these things. Like, I mean, the value in that is so high.
Well, football is a complicated game played at warp speed, right? And if you're thinking you're hesitating, and if you're hesitating, you can't perform, right? We talk about that a lot. So to get that out of the way in a slower process in the spring is important. But also to Brink's point, once it's August 1st, like, we're getting ready to compete and play, right? It's a tough learning environment. Yeah. Everything's thrown in at once. I always explain it like this to the families, like the first semester, you're just trying to keep your head above water. It's coming at you so fast. Give yourself a lot of leeway, have a realistic expectation. And then that first spring, it slows down. Yeah. You learn, I got it. You get coached, right? So there's a lot of guys that have an opportunity to impact this team, and those 9 coming early are going to give themselves a pretty quick advantage.
When putting together this class, clearly college sports, college football has changed at warp speed in recent years. Is it the same? Are the fundamentals the same? Or with all the changes, that alters the approach when it comes to putting together the recruiting class?
Well, I think, you have to keep more guys, like, on your board. Like Jamar Searcy, like, we were the first one to offer him, right? We're the first one to see his potential, and we're like, this is a dude. Right? He is a dynamo, and he fits our scheme to perfection. I also love when two-way players, there's a fight between who wants him at DB and running back. Like, I love that. But we knew he was an offensive player from the jump. And, as his senior, all of a sudden, senior season, what happens? Oh, he goes off, right? He's over 1,800 yards. He's killing people on defense. And you're like, I hope nobody sees this, right? Which, of course, everyone sees it. He's at Pittsburgh High School, one of the best at the Bay. And then everyone comes out of the woodwork, and then everyone starts to offer him. They start giving him all a bunch of different things. And, I just really appreciate guys like that, because that is old school mentality to say, no, I'm sticking with the people that believed in me first. I'm staying true to my word. And, there's a lot of things that are really important to that, but the landscape's always evolving. And you always need to kind of say who's next and who's right. And, like our two big-body tight ends, Cash and Peyton. We evaluated those guys as seniors, and they just keep getting better and better, right? Too many people are just taking juniors, right? I still believe that last developmental senior season is huge, Peyton, he thought he was just a basketball player 2 years ago. Right now he's finding a love for the game, and he's 6'6". We're going to get him training and eating like a football player. Big-time ball skills, and Cash is just a special, unique blend of size and speed, and got 10-inch hands. I know you'll have Robin here to describe all these guys, and he knows all these measurements, right? But, that's a massive mitt, right? So when you put on his highlight, you're just like, no wonder he's catching these balls like this. So there's just a lot that goes into the new landscape of recruiting, and, you got to be able to adapt with the times.
You mentioned, Coach, kind of your third kind of full recruiting class. But even as I think about you talking about those tight ends, right? Like, that was a change offensively where, hey, we want to get tight ends on the roster and we got to bring them in and develop them. Obviously, Coop's been fantastic, but, it was a position flip. And you've had a couple guys recruited in the last couple of classes, but probably to some degree haven't had a chance to dive into that position group and develop that position group. And you get guys, right, you get guys like Cash and Peyton, and you get to fill the room now with some bodies you can work with.
Yeah, I think that's something, Brink, that is lost sometimes in all this. We're building a program, okay? And I wish your progress to the top was just this nice and easy.
Sure.
But guess what? There's some bumps in the road, right?
Yeah.
And you just got to keep building. Our first priority, fix the heartbeat of the team, fix the offensive line. And that's an extensive approach, okay? So you can't just fix everything at one time.
Yeah.
So I think tight ends took a little bit of a back seat. We had a couple guys that, between Coop and Billy and Andre that we felt good about. So this is now a reload of talent at that position, and it's kind of a reset and a redevelopmental. And, same thing you would see the last 2 years at safety.
Yeah.
There's no shortcuts to fixing a position. And I think to the general public, well, you just go in the portal. It doesn't work like that. So we can't be a shortcut program. And you can see this type of investment over the last 2 years. I mean, I think we've taken 12 DBs. So now next year you're going to see a bunch of new names of there's Hunter Haynes. Okay. Oh, there's Gage Jones. I remember these guys from the last couple of years, right? And, between Napke, Jamari, and Kyle Peterson, they're going to be on campus right now. So they're going to give themselves an opportunity to compete right out the gate. So it's just some of these things where you got to kind of invest and navigate. And, I believe Rob, our GM, is a lead at that, and we've done a good job as a program filling those type of needs.
Yeah, and again, it's not to make specific comparisons, but I remember that idea of when Coach Leach had that time to build, all of a sudden these kids that we talked about on a signing day show 3 years ago were all conference players the next year, right? And it's I remember that kid. I remember how excited the staff was about that kid, but he wasn't ready day one, right? And then he had to develop, and he was in the system, and he was in the room, and those sort of things. You got a chance to then see it play out. And I think that point you're making about these kids are going to disappear for a little bit to develop and then show up on the field, right?
There's no question. And we've had to play a bunch of our guys probably before they're ready, I mean, obviously Wei-Sham, but, Carlos and Ansel Khalil, the best part is comparison deals, Ansel Khalil would kind of talk about thunder and lightning, right? And we say the same thing with Josiah Pratt and Elijah Tucker, thunder and lightning. You watch Josiah, you're Coach Pete would describe him more as a tsunami than thunder, right? 'Cause he is just a 300-pound road grader with great lateral quickness and ability. And anytime you can get a kid out of Tumwater like Malaysia, you know exactly how they're trained.
Yeah.
It's Tumwater tough. right? You go to a practice, go to a game. I mean, it is tumwater tough, and Elijah's that guy, but he reminds you a lot of Khalil. So you start getting those comps of like quickness and lateral and like, but you're seeing guys like Ansel, like Khalil, like Buddha, guys that we've talked about, Ethan O'Connor, playing and contributing fast that, they were on these sheets now, and now you're getting a chance to, through repetitiveness of coaching, to see these guys kind of come to fruition.
100%.
We've got you for just another minute. Just any final thoughts? I know there's never, you're head coach of a major college football program, there's never any lack of activity, but shoot, the game Saturday, signing day today, finding out soon enough about the bowl and where that's going to be and all the excitement and then gearing up for that. Just final thoughts as we talk about these new Cougs and everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, add player retention to that mix.
Yes,
this time
very
of
much
year.
so.
And there's a lot of things that are spinning. And but I always just reaffirm the team that there's nothing more important than the players. There isn't, right? This is a players' game, and you got to really invest your time, effort, and energy on getting the right people in your program. And that is staffing, right? That is support staff. I want to make sure before I go off, huge thank you to Rob Schlager, our GM. No one works harder in the country, and no one's better. Joel Diaz-Romero, we call him Chapo, our recruiting coordinator in his first year, did an amazing job. Taylor Long, our on-campus recruiting coordinator, has just been amazing. So many hard work and flights and hotels and tours. I can't even tell you how many things they do. All of our scouting department, all of our coaches, support staff, because one thing we believe in here is team over titles. When we have a recruiting weekend, I don't care what your title is, right? You're going to be driving people around. You're going to be showing people around. You got to be engaged in every position and in every family. So to have that type of work be celebrated on a day like today, like this is a reason to celebrate, Chris. And like Brink said, Cougs are going to be hearing these names sooner than later because I just think we got a bunch of dynamic players that we really believe in.
It is an exciting day, Coach. We appreciate the time as always. Rob Schlager up next. Our coverage rolls on.
Buckle up, Cougs. He knows their femur length, their hand size, their speed, their hip flexibility. Like this guy's one of a kind.
That's up next, Coach. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Always. Go Cougs.
Again, that is Jake Dickert, coach of the Cougs, joining us here. We're at the Cougar Football Complex. It's the WSU Signing Day Special. It is all brought to you by Northern Quest. Earn your bragging rights at Northern Quest with more slot machines, table games, restaurants, lounges, and luxury hotel rooms than anyone else in the region. Northern Quest, yes, the best. More at northernquest.com. As Coach Dickert said, the general manager of the Cougar Football Program, Rob Schlager, will join us next, and we'll have guests keep coming. Pete Caligas, we'll have Jared Castor, Alan Brown, Nick Edwards, all that and more. That's after this timeout. You're listening to Cougar Football from Lear Field.
Ho-ho! Welcome to the Make It Jingle with Chris Kringle podcast. Today we're talking to Jan from Toyota, all about Toyotathon.
Hi!
So, Jan, got any red Tacomas?
Yeah, we have a great selection of vehicles, including Tacomas.
After my big job, I'm taking the missus down to Florida to go surfing.
Did you say Florida? Can the elves and I go too?
Dealer inventory may vary. Offers are subject to change throughout Toyotathon, which ends on January 6th. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Toyota, let's go places.
Dear McDonald's, your breakfast menu? Fire. 10s across the board. I could be happy with anything, even though I ordered the same thing every time. Thanks for not judging me. I'll try something new next time. Maybe.
Buy one, get one for $1 breakfast on favorites like toasty bagel sandwiches, hash browns, and more. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This is former Coug, Eric Coleman.
Picked off, intercepted, touchdown coming into the end zone, Eric Coleman.
And you're listening to Cougar Football. Go Cougs.
Get game day ready at Rosars. Rosars is a proud sponsor of WSU Athletics and your headquarters for keeping snacks stocked up for game time. You'll find the largest craft beer selection, local and imported wines, and all the makings for your favorite cocktails. And while you're there, stock up on your favorite deli snacks, pizza, rotisserie chickens, and ribs. Don't just watch the game, experience it with your favorite game time foods. Get game day ready at Rosars.
Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories is a high-tech global company headquartered in Pullman, Washington, with a mission of making electric power safer, more reliable, and more economical. At SEL, employees enjoy working in a fast-paced, innovative environment while enjoying the many benefits of living on the Palouse. SEL is seeking engineers for paid internships and full-time positions. Apply to join the growing SEL team today at selinc.com/careers.
Back at the Cougar Football Complex, it is the WSU Signing Day Special presented by Northern Quest. Chris King here next to Alex Brink, and now we're joined by the GM of the Cougar Football Program, Rob Schlager. Rob, it's so great to visit with you here, and I know you work hard day in and day out, but this is a special day, right, to see the signing class kind of coming all together, everyone putting pen to paper or whatever it is electronically now, and seeing this come to fruition that all these guys are going to be future Cougs.
Absolutely. It's a culmination of a lot of work. And I want to start with thanking my department to start. So recruiting-wise, Chapo and Taylor, just the consistent energy and effort that they put into everything they did. I mean, just you talk about the work I did. I mean, they were unbelievable through this process. I mean, the multiple drives up to Spokane and back to get guys here and safely and having the best experiences possible. I mean, they facilitated that at an extremely high level, and ultimately I'm glad that they are, with us, right next to me in this process, and ultimately anywhere we'd ever be together, that I know for a fact that these guys are always going to be in my corner too, and they're going to give their absolute best to, what our common objective is to get these guys signed, but also continue to develop it as well. And then ultimately scouting, Kyle and Owen, they did a phenomenal job in being very diligent and detailed in that process, especially the forefront of it too in the initial prospecting realm, and really working through the tri-state into the rest of the footprint of California, especially with the number of guys that we had acquired, which is a big number this year in 8, and then into some of those secondary areas of Texas, and then get into a little more of a Midwest migration, and get into finding some offensive linemen and some bigger bodies that we want to continue to expand into there. And then the last one too is Carson and creative, just obviously the creativity that went with it, and all the work that he had put in when it came to the graphics, but what set those graphics up, especially in these visits and being great in those photo shoots and really being a pivotal part of that too. So this group of people is a culmination. This work is really the culmination of that group of people and all the work that they've put into. I'm very grateful for those guys and would not be in this seat without their work as well, and we would not have signed this class without that too. So,
Rob, speak to, you talk about the process and the people. Mm-hmm. Talk about the length, right? Like when that starts, right? With one of these athletes, when is the scouting department getting eyes on them? When it, you know what I mean? Like, just talk about how that plays out, because I know a lot of people see signing day and they're like, oh, probably saw him last spring and then that was it. But it's been not just a culmination of a lot of work, but time, right?
Yeah, a lot of time, and it's. For us, there's an order evaluation, and where that starts too. We've actually already started the 2026 cycle,
right?
In terms of the evaluation process, again, in the tri-state, but really honing in on the state of Washington to start. But it starts with the anthropometrics, and ultimately there we're just looking at the dimensional pieces of the body type that essentially gives us the inclination of whether or not we can develop them and get them to the best version of themselves too, athletically as well as skillfully, and that's where we get into not only the prototypical arm length and the wings and the hand spans, but extensively into the knee circumferences, the femur lengths, for bend distribution. That knee circumference is really, the reason for that is to ensure that we know how much growth potential that we can work with and how much more weight we can put on proportionally, especially in that frame itself as well, and it goes all the way into torso length and really just a lot of different dimensions that all have, some type of tangible data that we have that we can essentially make a calculated decision on. And then we get into the biomechanical aspect of it. So some functional movement screening, but also going into the spring part of the process when we get our coaches out on the road, and those guys do a great job of going out and really, seeing some of these guys work out athletically and seeing just the movements linearly, laterally, multi-directionally, and just ensuring that we're getting the proper mover where there's not going to be a hindrance in that development either. And then it gets into camp season in the summer where we see those guys go compete. For us, we're big on competitive character. It's something I definitely look into holistically. It's an answer that we got to get out of that camp season, but it also trickles into the senior season as well. And we look at really consistency or conveniency. Okay, ultimately the competitive character. Okay, that's the effort, that's the toughness, that's the finish on the field essentially, and seeing that on a consistent basis. We see it out of convenience. There's an intangible problem, and so that's a big piece that we see in that summer. But then we also see that athletic ability and those movements applied into the skill set, and see that now in that competitive environment as well. And that's where for us, I think we've done really well in some of those camp sessions too, and we go from anywhere in our region to then we've been in Texas a couple of years ago in Georgia. I mean, we definitely expand our brand in that capacity too, but that is that next step and that next phase that essentially at times reaffirms what we had seen in the spring. Then we got the official visit period in that summer. Going into the senior season is really critical for us in terms of just what we see in that upward trajectory and making sure that they're finishing on that trajectory too. They're not leveling out and plateauing. They're not getting worse. They continue to get better, which gives us that indication that, the growth potential is still there. There's still more to develop because ultimately it's us recruiting for what they've done. And then when we get them here, developing them, coaching them to what they can become, so that's that last phase. But there's multiple phases throughout that process. And ultimately, if they're not ready off that junior tape initially, then we push it to the spring eval. From the spring eval, whether it's a confirmation or we got to get it, essentially, if it's not good enough, then we got to push it to the summer camp eval, and we just keep evaluating and ensuring that we're getting the right kid and the most calculated capacity too. So that's where we see the skill set, and then ultimately in that senior season, we look into that schematic fit. Where does it fit within our offense? How can we get at offensively a baller's balance and some package potential, maybe with some skills? Where does it fit in terms of what we do on up front? We look for guys that, especially on the offensive line, they gotta be run blockers first with athletic traits for Coach Castor to be able to develop the pass protector. So the schematic fit's really important. And then throughout this whole process, the hardest one is also the psychological aspect. Sure. We can't dive into the minds of these kids.
You're right.
We really, we have as good of a feel as we do, based on what we see and that consistency and that competitive character on the tape, based on that 48-hour visit that they take with us too, based on all the conversations we have with them as well. So there's a lot that goes into that process. It is very extensive. It does start early, but it finishes really late.
Right.
Once again, for us, we just don't have the luxury to miss.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. I mean, for us, it's like a game of golf. We're judged on our misses more than our hits, and we got to make sure that, again, we're minimizing those misses and taking some guys with some developmental upside that may have higher ceilings, but to complement some guys that we may already have on the roster, balancing it out and seeing that, again, we may be able to take some higher floor guys that can maybe play early as well.
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit, and Coach Dicker talked about it, but kind of the geographical net of this recruiting class. And I know for you and your staff, it is no stone unturned. Wherever you can find a great Coug, you're going to go out and look for them.
Absolutely.
What has that been like in this class? Obviously, that tri-state area you talk about, there's kind of the backyard, if you will, of where a good chunk of WSU players come from, but you want to get them wherever they're at.
Absolutely. And for us, we're always going to start inside out. But that doesn't mean that, we can't expand our brand and go find what we need elsewhere if we're not finding it in the tri-state area. Typically we've done really well with the offensive line position in this area, in this region specifically. And this cycle is a little more, a little tougher in that capacity. So for us, it was starting to expand, like I said, migrating to the Midwest and finding a Midwest mauler who can be an interior force that has some positional interior flex. And then a bigger body kid that may be a little more feather-footed that can play on the edge. And again, for us to be able to develop, I mean, that's a 3-year developmental position, So we also want to make sure we're getting the right mentality. And, being from the Midwest, typically, that's what we get out of those young men, so that's one example. In the past, we've looked into, the South in terms of the athletes and finding more skills that we don't find on the West Coast, but typically there's an abundance of that already in the state of California, but if we don't find it there, Texas typically has a lot for us, and that's what we've been able to acquire. So, yeah, we want to take care of the footprint as I see them. We got 14 guys from the West Coast, which is great. A lot of guys that are going to stay home and stick, so that's really important for us too. But ultimately, even the guys that we're going to find elsewhere, they fit us, that culture, like that cultural compatibility, just they got to be able to fit in with what we've already established. And that's the thing when it comes to the trust, the mutual trust, not just being truth tellers, but truth listeners, and being willing to obviously take that and really build that relationship from that foundation. And then, loving the process, but also loving the people that they're operating this process with, because really it's not about what we do with what we have. It's about how we do it with who we have. Getting the right people on that bus, and then, the competitive character I already alluded to, and then, the discipline aspect of it. Guys that, again, are going to be consistent in that element rather than just being, convenient and making convenient decisions, and that's holistically on and off the field. So that's why, when it comes to expanding, yeah, it's a hard place to get to, and really going elsewhere at times can be difficult in terms of travel. But we gotta do what we gotta do, and we gotta go find the right fit, and that's what it's about for us. And ultimately, if that comes from the region, great. If it doesn't, we'll make sure again we're getting a true Coug by the end of the day.
Well, congratulations on what is a great day here. And before we let you go, just Alex, any other final thoughts for Rob? I know this is just for you. There's just all this hard work, this blood, sweat, and tears for your staff, and coming into fruition and getting all these guys to officially sign to be Cougs today.
Rob and I, we talked for a long time yesterday, and I got to watch tape, and I know you love all of them because you're like the proud papa in this whole thing, but. I look at the front seven, the linebackers, the edges, the defensive line, and the collection of that group. And, I got to, just for Coug fans out there, I am so fired up by some of these guys like A.J. Tuateli, Lukan Amatuani. Like, these guys can really do it in different ways and have – and there's other guys in here, Josiah Pratt, Elijah Tucker, Coach Dickert talked about the kind of comparisons to Khalil and Ansel a little bit.
Thunder
and Lightning. But even some of the positional comparisons of guys, we've seen them before maybe, or we've seen that body type. I think, just really high level, like on that front seven group that you guys brought in, your excitement level.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic about it. Obviously, we want to build this roster inside out. It's really critical for us, and obviously, from a pass rush standpoint, we got to improve there, and we got to go find guys that can do that for us. So acquiring the 18 sacks on the edge, between Lukan and Luke, we're really ecstatic about. Nice little blend of speed and power between the two of them. And then between Josiah and Elijah, Josiah is he benched 225 30-plus times with 33-inch arms. So that strike separation is going to be great at the point, the anchor, to absorb some of that lateral play inside, and those deuces and bumps can be critical for us in there. And then ultimately within the back end, through the core, especially at backer, I think A.J. Tuateli has some flexibility. He's a guy that has blitzed through the core. He's reduced down the edge and rushed. Disruptive in passing lanes with that length, and he's a good box navigational player with a Jovan who gives us that compact twitch and some of that short area explosiveness. So it's really, again, a conglomerate of blended skill sets and complemented within what we already have on the roster that we're trying to build foundationally inside out to ensure that, again, number one, we're always able to rush the passer and stop the run first and foremost, and then again generating a lot in what we have with the cover guys that we've been able to get with some of these speed metrics and such too. So
Rob, great work. Thanks so much for being here. What an exciting day, and looking forward to seeing these guys for years and years to come in a Cougar uniform.
As are we. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Rob Schlager, the general manager at Cougar Football, stopping by. Here we are at the Cougar Football Complex. It is the WSU Signing Day special. We'll take a timeout. It's all presented by Northern Quest. When we come back, excited to be joined by Pete Caligas. He'll be joining us, assistant head coach, also works with the defensive tackles. That's after this timeout. You're listening to this Cougar Football broadcast from Lear Field.
Santa, is that you? Oh, in the flesh.
Is that a new sled? It's kind of tiny.
Yeah, it is. I'm delivering Northern Quest gift cards this year. Good for dining, shopping, spa treatments, fine cigars, you name it. They pack so much fun into such a small package, I downsized to this. It gets way better mileage. Besides, hey, it's not the size of the sled that counts, am I right, huh?
Get your holiday gift cards today at northernquest.com.
Coors Light presents To Chill or Not to Chill. When your friend skips your favorite song on the playlist. End the friendship. Or choose chill because that song lives rent-free in your head anyway. And you're planned ahead by bringing Coors Light to the party. And the sound of that ice-cold can cracking open was music to your ears already. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
This is the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield.
This Washington State University sports broadcast is brought to you in part by Pullman Regional Hospital, the official hospital of Washington State Athletics. The combined expertise of our university and our award-winning hospital are being deployed to provide greater access to resources, education, employment opportunities, and innovations to improve health care and health outcomes for all of us. Learn more at pullmanregional.org. Pullman Regional Hospital and Washington State, partners in excellence.
Ho, welcome to the Make It Jingle with Chris Kringle podcast. Today we're talking to Jan from Toyota, all about Toyotathon.
Hi.
So, Jan, got any red Tacomas?
Yeah, we have a great selection of vehicles, including Tacomas.
After my big job, I'm taking the missus down to Florida to go surfing.
Did you say Florida? Can the elves and I go too?
Dealer inventory may vary. Offers are subject to change throughout Toyotathon, which ends on January 6th. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Toyota. Let's go places.
Back at the Cougar Football Complex, it is the WSU Signing Day Special. Here we are. It's all presented by Northern Quest, talking about the 23 new Cougs officially signing today. Chris King here with Alex Brink, and we've got Pete Callagis here, assistant head coach, also works with the defensive tackles. Coach, how you doing? This is an exciting day, right?
You know I'm doing really well. It is an exciting day. It's a day where you can experience some joy. Cut some things out that normally are always on our plate, and just be really thankful. Really thankful. I think it was one of the smoothest signing days I've been around. For these kids to stay locked in, it just shows you the relationships that have been built all year round.
I think that's such a great point. I've done this show a handful of times, and I feel like this is the first time I've walked into this building and everybody's like, yep, everybody's in, everybody's signed. And I was like, wait a minute, like we're locked in? And it was like, yeah, like feel good about it. And I thought that's, to your point, the relationship building, especially in this day and age, and the nature of it is really impressive. Coach Dicker talked about, the culture fits and how you guys as staff members, went out and as you found the players in your region or positionally, found kids that they want to be here, right? And they want to be with us and with you guys, right?
Yeah, they fit in. And the other thing, I want to thank the university. I want to thank the university for providing the budget to allow us to fly out. I mean, Josiah Pratt was a young man that I was able to see 2 days ago, a year ago, wow, at a practice. And, I'm coming after that young man for sure. Wow. And so for them to provide the funds for us to go out all winter and then all spring to really research and to watch these guys in action at camps in June and everything, I want to thank the university for providing that for us, but then also for our recruiting staff and Rob Schlager, who I think is one of the best in the business, and finding everybody. So, and then many thanks to them.
You mentioned Josiah. So Josiah Pratt, a defensive lineman out of Houston, and then I think it was Coach Dickert who was highlighting Elijah Tucker as well. So a Washington kid from Tumwater. What can Cougs expect with those two new additions?
I call him a lot. I know everyone said thunder and lightning. You look at Josiah, he'll be thunder, but I call him the human Humvee. He's 300 pounds. He's benching 225 30-plus times. He's already benching 450, and I watched him work out in the spring in the weight room. I was like, oh, my word, here we go. And then you look at Elijah Tucker. Elijah right now has 18 TFLs. He has 8 sacks, where Josiah has 17 TFLs and 4 sacks. And Elijah, what was really fun about Elijah came up in the spring, and he was throwing 50 feet in the shot. And I said, well, send me your film. And so what he did is he sent me his film. We put it on the XOs, and we didn't talk football in the meeting room. all we did was we watched his shot tape. And so I started coaching him on his right foot, getting his right foot underneath him and staying cocked and letting things fly. And he goes out the next beat and hits 55. He's 55 plus. Hit a 56. We talked about graduating early with Malaysia, but he said, Coach, I want to get the school record because I know I can get the school record. And I said, go after it. I go, that's important to me. So he has the power to throw it, and with the 56 shot, that tells you right there what he has. And I'm really excited about him. He's a wiry, and he's really coming into his own. I think everyone knows Coach McGrath in this state. What he's done with all the young men that he's coached at Tumwater is just, in that program alone, says a lot.
Yeah, Coach Dicker mentioned it in the class in general, kind of this group of winners, right? And I think about Malaysia and Tumwater and what they've done. I mean, in-state program, one of the winningest programs of all time. Malaysia's, coming from that and coming into your room. I mean, it's got to make you feel good inside as coach.
It does, because when you talk about Ansel too, Ansel won a state title. Ansel won a state title at Aledo, came from a winning program. Yeah. And then Josiah. Josiah is going to be in the quarterfinals. Coach Harrison, the head coach at Summer Creek. When I saw that practice, I was really, really impressed. They do not waste a minute. They do not waste a second. And every young man in that program is ready for college football. The program, how he runs it, the time demands that they're demanded of those young men and year-round. I want to say their linebacker that was picked up by LSU last year, he's starting this year as a freshman. All his guys go and succeed. And it's as we all know, it's leadership. And at the high school level, it's all leadership. And like you mentioned, Tumwater, yes, it's a legacy. And those kids know how to work, and they know how to win.
How will these two new guys fit in with so many guys who are set to return? There's so much there already in the room that these two will be able to be added to.
I think that's a great question. I think everyone wants to ask that. And my response is, guess what? They get to write their own story, and we'll find out come spring, and then spring for Josiah because he'll be here in 5 weeks, and then Malaysia will find out after fall camp. So they get to come in, and we always say, you prove it. You write it. You work for it, and you produce, and you show. It's the same thing. It was with Ansel and Khalil. We're the same. They were in the same boat, and you'll know. We'll know as a staff, and but they have to come in, and a lot of it too is going to be pouring into them, and still allowing them to know who they are, the gifts that they have, and what I tell all these young men: I don't do anything. I don't do anything for you. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I lock arms with you. I'm teaching you some technique. I'm teaching you some of the schemes. I'm teaching the whole offensive scheme so you understand where the ball is inserted and angle departure and alignment so you know what the play is as soon as it's post-snap. And other than that, it's your true God-given ability that's coming out now. That's all I do. And I just walk arm in arm with them and allow them to understand who they are as a man and their identity, and also to let them know that football is not their identity. It's David Gusta, it's Ansel, and I call him Boo, Khalil. Football is not your identity. And when you know your core values and what you live by, that's what's going to make you great, because that's what's going to drive you. And that's going to be the same thing with Josiah and Malaysia, because we all know the mind games that go on. We've all played it. We still have mind games that go on, even for me at 53, that you got to defeat.
Well, it is so great having you here, and it's pretty clear to tell why your players have a deep bond with you that are lucky to be coached by you. And this is just an exciting day talking about these two guys specifically, but the 23 new Cougs that we know for sure will be part of the program moving forward. Congrats. I know it's a lot of hard work to get to this point. Enjoy this one today. I know it's a busy time, but congrats on what is a fun day for Cougar football.
I will. Thank you so much for having me on there. I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, Coach. Thank you so much.
That is Pete Caligas joining us here on our WSU Signing Day Special. Assistant head coach, also works with the defensive tackles. We will take another break. Our coverage rolls on from the Cougar Football Complex. After this, when we return, Jared Castor, offensive line coach, will join us. Also still to come as well, Alan Brown, cornerbacks coach, Nick Edwards, wide receivers coach, Nick Whitworth, special teams, and also tight ends, and Joel Diaz-Romero, director of recruiting. More after this. It's the WSU Signing Day Special presented by Northern Quest. You're listening to our Cougar football coverage from Learfield.
Bro, you go hard for the WSU Cougs.
What do you mean?
You're literally wearing a Coug jersey that you bought from the Coug store with your Coug debit card. And you don't stop talking about how every time you use your card, GISA donates to the Cougar Athletic Fund.
I guess I do go pretty hard for my Cougs.
If you go hard for your Cougs, get your WSU card today at GISA.com. Go Cougs!
In sports, they say that practice makes perfect. In the legal field of play, the Cooney Law Offices team has been practicing since 1949. Cooney Law Offices knows how to advance your case, strategically defend, and get you into the end zone when it comes to a personal injury, family law, DUI defense, criminal defense, wills and estates, and employment law. If you've got a legal problem, don't settle for less. Cooney can help. Visit www.jcooney.com. Cooney for Cougs.
You're listening to Cougar Football on the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield.
This Cougar football tailgating moment is sponsored by Brown Family Vineyards. Brown Family honors the legacy of founder Andrew Brown's late grandfather, William Bittner Brown. Every decision made, from farm to glass, reflects their commitment to premium Northwest wine and spirits. Whether you're visiting one of Brown's tasting rooms or opening a bottle in your own home, Andrew and his wife Courtney welcome you to their extended family, where good friends, good food and wine, and good times are always on the agenda. Stop by one of our tasting rooms in Spokane, Walla Walla, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, or Portland, and get 20% off a glass this season when you mention WSU.
Get game day ready at Rosars. Rosars is a proud sponsor of WSU Athletics and your headquarters for keeping snacks stocked up for game time. You'll find the largest craft beer selection, local and imported wines, and all the makings for your favorite cocktails. And while you're there, stock up on your favorite deli snacks, pizza, rotisserie chickens, and ribs. Don't just watch the game, experience it with your favorite game time foods. Get game day ready at Rosars.
You're listening to the Cougar Signing Day Special, presented by Northern Quest Resort and Casino.
Here sets his feet, sidearm throw. Cooper Mathers delivers again in the end zone.
Earn bragging rights at Northern Quest in Spokane, Washington, with more slot machines, table games, restaurants, lounges, and luxury hotel rooms than anyone else in the region. Northern Quest. Yes, it's the best. More at northernquest.com. Here's the voice of the Cougs, Chris King.
Back at the Cougar Football Complex, it is the WSU Signing Day Special. The Cougs signing 23 new players to be part of the program moving forward, and excited to have our 2-hour coverage here. Already getting a chance to talk with Coach Dicker, to Rob Schlager, the GM, and many more still to come. And Jared Castor, our guest now, offensive line coach. How are you doing? This is an exciting day. What's it like when you actually get to signing day and it's here and everyone's locked and loaded?
You know, it's a great day. It's a great day for these young men to kind of pledge their allegiance to us as a program, and to see the lives that are changed, not from the kids, but to the family. And that's kind of what we do this for. It's a calling for all of us. There's multiple coaches that went through this process with Aaron High School, and you get to see the joy that it brings a kid, that brings a family, that these young men are at home now, and they're joining our family, and we're fired up for it. But an awesome experience this morning, and just to kind of solidify the future here and what we're doing, I know from my room, but from everybody's room here, but very exciting day here on the Blues.
Coach mentioned, kind of the realization there you guys had of, you're going to have 7 seniors in the room, and so trying to obviously start to, rebuild the next line, and you get 4 players that are, very different in who they are, and obviously kind of probably positional flexibility and those sort of things. But, really high level, just talk about, the kind of the 4 guys and what you see them bring to the room.
Well, you say they're all different. They're all from all across the country, too. You're going from from Michigan to Nebraska to Colorado to California. So, and with that, we're going to find offensive linemen that want to be O-linemen.
Yeah.
And I think, Rob and our recruiting department, scouting department, and from Coach Dicker do an unbelievable job with unturning every stone. And if you are an offensive lineman and you want to go forward and you want to create and establish the line of scrimmage, we're going to find you. And if you fit that mold, it doesn't matter if you're in New York to California, we are going to evaluate you and we're going to put you through the process. And that kind of goes for these 4 guys. It goes from Liam all the way in Michigan to, he is a true offensive lineman. I mean, just a meathead kid that loves playing football. He's a wrestler. You know, I think he's got a match today, and he's fired up about it. And then you go to Nebraska for Turner.
Yeah.
And, you know, a big kid that is athletic, that is physical, that has got so much growth and potential in him. And then you go to Aiden in Colorado that, you know, has got a lot of upside, that is a violent human being. And from running downfield to doing what he's doing basketball right now. So, and then you go to Arion in California, who is another just a true fighter. I mean, that it loves establishing the line of scrimmage, comes from the great program there at Orange Lutheran. And you're getting different types of kids.
Yeah.
But you're getting the same one when it comes to the love of the game and their true alignment.
Yep.
And that's what we look for in this class. You know, we look for guys that want to come in here, that love Washington State, that love developing, and that love the process, not just on Saturdays, but the stuff before that, you know.
Development and process, those are big words when it comes to any position group, but maybe more so than any when it comes to offensive linemen. What's it like getting these guys in, getting your fingers on it, and kind of molding the lump of clay that they come in, and then turn them out to be, you know, strong performers for the Cougs out on the field?
Yeah, and that was the first thing. You know, you sign them, but it's like, all right, young man, this starts now. You know, there is, whether it's Zooms or whatever it may be, like this process starts now. You get your plan from your workout to finish your senior. You know, obviously Liam gets here. He's a mid-year kid, and those other three, like, what are you doing right now still in high school to finish your high school senior, you know, your senior year off? But this position, you know, I'm a little biased when it comes to it, but it is a developmental position. And when you do it right, you trust the process. You don't come in here and you don't expect to play right away, and you believe in growing the growth in yourself and on the field and off the field. You do it the right way. That's how offensive line play should be. You come in here, you buy into the strength staff, you buy into what we're preaching here, and you do it the right way, and you'll see growth in where you want to go. And that's these four kids. They see that. They see what we're going to do for them. They trusted that. They believed in that. But you're right. I mean, development, if you meet an offensive line coach and he does not talk about development, he's probably not an offensive line coach. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, so much coming back at the position, and these guys, 4 of the 23 of the signing class offensive linemen, getting to start that process with you, Jared Castor, offensive line coach for the Cougs. Thanks so much for being here, and congrats on a fun day.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yep.
Again, that is Jared Castor joining us here for the Cougar Football Complex. Our signing day coverage rolls on after this. Again, to reset what's coming up next, we will kind of dive in more with Alex Brink here about the signing class overall, 23 members. Then Alan Brown still to come, cornerbacks coach, wide receiver coach Nick Edwards. We'll also have Nick Whitworth, special teams coach, works with the tight ends, and Joel Diaz-Romero, director of recruiting. All that after this break. Our coverage rolls on. You're listening to our signing day coverage here of Cougar football from Learfield.
Calling all Coug fans. While the Cougars are busy taking home the win this season, you can download the McDonald's app and take home our new Game Day Bundle, big enough to feed the whole squad. Get 20 golden, juicy chicken McNuggets, plus 2 medium orders of the world-famous fries you love, all for just $11.99. Talk about a winning combination. Must opt into rewards at participating McDonald's. Valid through 2024-25 football season. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
With the WSU debit card from Giza, it's hard to tell who's supporting who. When Coug fans use their WSU card, they show off their Coug pride, and donations are made back to Cougar Athletics. But the card supports the Coug fan with big savings by helping them grow their money with Smart Plus checking. So, does the card support the Coug fan, or does the Coug fan support the card? It doesn't matter. All that matters is that the WSU card supports Cougar Athletics and your wallet at the same time. Get your WSU card at Giza.com. Checking account transaction requirements, terms and conditions apply. Insured by NCUA.
This is former Coug, Eric Coleman.
Picked off, intercepted, touchdown coming into the end zone, Eric Coleman.
And you're listening to Cougar Football. Go Cougs.
Ho, welcome to the Make It Jingle with Chris Kringle podcast. Today we're talking to Jan from Toyota, all about Toyotathon.
Hi.
So, Jan, got any red Tacomas?
Yeah, we have a great selection of vehicles, including Tacomas.
After my big job, I'm taking the missus down to Florida to go surfing.
Did you say Florida? Can the elves and I go too?
Dealer inventory may vary. Offers are subject to change throughout Toyotathon, which ends on January 6th. See your participating Toyota dealer for details. Toyota, let's go places.
Hampton and Pullman is just a short drive from the WSU campus. They've got you covered for all your lodging and dining needs with the addition of their on-site bar and restaurant, Crimson Bar and Bites. You will feel right at home with their spacious rooms, famous Hampton waffles, cozy outdoor patios, Cougar gift shop, and the friendliest staff in town. Visit HamptonByHilton.com to reserve a room for your next trip to the Palouse. Coug owned and Coug managed. It matters where you stay. Hampton and Pullman. Hilton for the stay.
Back at the Cougar Football Complex, this is the WSU Signing Day Special. 23 players signing today to be part of this class. Kind of getting you reset here. It's been so great to chat with everyone so far. Jake Dickert, Rob Schlager, Pete Callagis, also Jared Castor. A big thanks to everyone making our broadcast here possible. Jerry Kylo on the audio side, Jared Pringooper on the video side. We've got Luke Hallett back in the U.S. Bank Network studios. Chris King next with Alex Brink. Here we are on the couch. It's been fun rotating everyone in, getting to pick everyone's brains about these Cougs who are signing today. And, something we were talking about during the break, there's a lot to kind of layers to this recruiting class, and we talk about the changes. But one of the changes that you were touching on is, hey, it's going to be a roster cap of 105, but there's also more to that when it comes to managing the roster and how that could be changing moving forward.
100%. I cannot impress upon everybody enough how much has changed in the world of recruiting in college football in the last 2 to 4 years, right? It's everything from Coach talked about the calendar is different and ever evolving. The issue with all the now recently the House settlement where there's a roster cap of 105, but there's really no scholarship limits, right? And the fear was when all that came out was that maybe the halves in football would go put kids on 105 kids on full scholarship, right? They would find a way to do that, and that would hurt, right, a school like Washington State that maybe didn't have those resources. Well, it's kind of played out where maybe most schools will still stick with 85 full scholarships and then use walk-ons. But one thing that got kind of underreported is that they don't necessarily have to have full scholarships. It doesn't have to be only full scholarships now, Chris. You can have some partial scholarships. There can be some additional financial aid on the academic side to fill the gap. That's an advantage for programs that are not maybe as well resourced, say, as Washington State, because you could take maybe not 85 guys on full scholarships. You could take 98 guys that have some version of scholarship, right? Room and board, all the things that come with it. You can kind of piece that together from a roster management standpoint and develop some players, right? Create depth in your room. And some of those guys will work out, some of them won't, but they're all going to be getting some version of, right, scholarship dollars or help, financial aid, that sort of thing. That's actually a benefit for Washington State because you can get more developmental talent with great coaching staff, develop those young men. And if they work out, that's fantastic. If they don't, they don't. But also, you're not going to have to go chase the transfer portal every year, right? You're not going to have to go backfill that way because you're going to have more bodies on your roster that you feel great about. So I think that's a really interesting point that has kind of come to fruition through all of these things. And I know Rob Schlager and the whole staff here are doing a great job of that roster management. And it is another layer that's just it kind of blows my mind, but it's pretty interesting.
That is an excellent point, and it pays to be a step ahead. And those guys, they are going to hit further down the road that could make an impact 2, 3, 4 years from now. Speaking of a position group we were also talking about during the break, tight ends. We've got Nick Whitworth here, special teams coordinator, tight ends coach, and he will hop in and join us here on the couch right now. The two tight ends for the Cougs in this class, Cash Landau and Peyton Reed, both Portland guys. Cash from Franklin High School, Peyton Reed from Westview High School, and we're getting Nick on the headset here and situated. We'll start with this. Congrats. This is always an exciting day. What can you tell us about the two tight ends as part of this signing class? They're going to be Cougs.
Yeah. Is this working? Does this sound good?
You're on. You're sounding nice and clear.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you guys. How you been?
Fantastic. Great to see you, man.
It's a great day here in Cougland, and excited about what's happened this morning with National Signing Day. And we've worked out. I know a lot of the coaches and all the people in this building have really worked tirelessly to put this class together from a long time ago. So it's nice to see it all come to fruition. We're excited to see it, man. Fire up.
You got some big bodies coming in at the tight end position in Cash and Peyton, man. They, guys I know well. I live in Portland, so I've seen these guys as they've developed, and I got to imagine you're excited about it.
Very happy about where this ended up with the tight end position as far as the people that we got in the room. I think the first thing that we liked about these is they match up with what we wanted to do from a development standpoint. You've got two young men coming in with great measurements as far as height and length, and growth potential from a size standpoint that we just can't wait to get our hands on and start working with, right? Second thing that I love about these guys that really drew me to them is their attitudes are incredible. I mean, they have a high desire to be great players, not good players, great players. They're willing to do the extra work from everything I've been told about these two guys, and they really, really are focused on being great football players. And so I think they have a high drive, and that's gonna push them towards their success ceiling, and I think that's a huge piece of it too. And I think one of the a couple of the intangibles that I liked about them is I got to know them through people that know them. I know a couple of the coaches at WSU, and I've got another coach at Cash's School in Franklin. But just these guys are leaders. These guys are both multiple year team captains. They're the guys that everybody looks to. They're the guys that have provided leadership to their programs. And I think that when you put a combination of those things, the size and the specs and the intangibles, I mean, that's where you want to go from a football player standpoint. And that's what we want in our room. So ecstatic about how this worked out. I can't wait to work with these two.
And speaking of the room, how is it moving forward? Billy Revere graduating, but still a lot, and then Cooper Mathers as well. But some other key guys coming back that they'll be added into the mix with.
Yeah, and I think that's we're starting to kind of get this room where we want it to, from where it was a couple of years ago where it wasn't existent. And I think one thing, the leadership from those two seniors that's leaving is just invaluable. And the culture that they've set in that room as far as going forward with young guys like, not young, but semi-young, Andre Dollar, Trey Lechner, Luke Layton, Ben Dutton, those guys carrying that culture forward is going to be huge in the development piece of these new guys that we're bringing in. But ecstatic about Andre coming back, ecstatic about Trey coming back, and there's some production that we've got to come up with one of those two, from Cooper Mathers leaving and some of the touchdowns that he's provided for us this season.
Coach, last thing, I know you're kind of a Northwest guy. You spent a lot of time in the Northwest,
oh, yeah.
and this was it was a footprint both Washington and Oregon that you guys hit really effectively. Maybe just speak kind of high level to that and being making sure that that's a priority.
Well, as being a developmental program, and this is not just recruiting talk. This is actually how you come in our doors. You're going to see how it's organized when you see Coach Slager's office and you see the boards. But being a developmental program and caring about bringing kids in and adding value to them, we're going to start in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to start in what we call the tri-state area, and that's going to be Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. These are the places that are proximity to Washington State, that have location, that people are familiar with the place, and that also that we are familiar with the coaches in these areas. So we know what we're getting with these young men. We know the type of players that we're getting. We know the type of men that we're getting. We also know how well they've been coached. And so that familiarity combined with the talent that's out there in these areas that needs to be developed has been huge. And so we're always going to start in that area no matter what. That's not recruiting talk. That's just who we are. And I think in the 3 seasons that I've been here, we've loved the players that we've gotten from that area, and we're going to continue to try and make way in bringing those guys in. I know Washington's always been a big thing for us, and we make it a priority. I know Coach Caligas does a phenomenal job with those guys, and then trying to get the door open in Oregon. And I think that you're starting to see us kind of get that door open towards Washington State, and I think some of those kids are coming over and starting to see this as a very viable option as far as continuing their athletic and academic career. But it all starts with that, man, 100%.
Cash and Peyton, both Portland guys, excited to have them as Cougs. Coach, appreciate the time. Thanks for being here, and congrats on an exciting day with signing day.
You guys are the best. You make it so easy, man.
Well, we got this guy right here, so that's all the heavy lifting. Again, Nick Wickworth, tight ends coach, special teams coordinator, joining us here from the Cougar Football Complex. Our signing day coverage presented by Northern Quest continues. When we come back, we'll have Alan Brown, cornerbacks coach, stopping by. That's all after this. You're listening to our Cougar Football coverage from Learfield.
This Cougar football tailgating moment is sponsored by Brown Family Vineyards. Brown Family honors the legacy of founder Andrew Brown's late grandfather, William Bittner Brown. Every decision made, from farm to glass, reflects their commitment to premium Northwest wine and spirits. Whether you're visiting one of Brown's tasting rooms or opening a bottle in your own home, Andrew and his wife Courtney welcome you to their extended family, where good friends, good food and wine, and good times are always on the agenda. Stop by one of our tasting rooms in Spokane, Walla Walla, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, or Portland, and get 20% off a glass this season when you mention WSU.
Whether you root for the Zags or the Cougs, now's your chance to play for your favorite team. It's the Winning Colors Challenge at Northern Quest. Simply pick up your special Gonzaga or WSU Camas Rewards card now through November 30th and play as usual. Whichever fan base earns the most Camas points wins $10,000 for their program. Become a card-carrying Zags or Cougs fan during the Winning Colors Challenge only at Northern Quest.
Back after this local timeout on the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield.
Get game day ready at Rosars. Rosars is a proud sponsor of WSU Athletics and your headquarters for keeping snacks stocked up for game time. You'll find the largest craft beer selection, local and imported wines, and all the makings for your favorite cocktails. And while you're there, stock up on your favorite deli snacks, pizza, rotisserie chickens, and ribs. Don't just watch the game, experience it with your favorite game time foods. Get game day ready at Rosars.
Hampton and Pullman is just a short drive from the WSU campus. They've got you covered for all your lodging and dining needs with the addition of their on-site bar and restaurant, Crimson Bar and Bites. You will feel right at home with their spacious rooms, famous Hampton waffles, cozy outdoor patios, Cougar gift shop, and the friendliest staff in town. Visit HamptonByHilton.com to reserve a room for your next trip to the Palouse. Coug owned and Coug managed. It matters where you stay. Hampton and Pullman. Hilton for the stay.
Our signing day coverage rolls on. It is WSU signing day. 23 new Cougs signed today. Here we are at the Cougar Football Complex. Chris King joining you with Alex Brink. Here we are having a great time chatting with coaches coming in and out and getting all the info on this new group of Cougs signing. And with that, Alan Brown, cornerbacks coach, joining us here. And Coach, this was a big class of the 23 guys who signed. 6 are DBs. What can you tell us about the guys that you're going to be working with?
This is a special group, man. I mean, you're talking about guys from all over the place. We got guys from Cali, Colorado. Obviously, we kept Cuckoo home in Washington, and then we got a couple Texas cats as well. So really versatile group, guys that can play all over, fly around, and get guys to the ground and take the ball out the air. So really good group.
Seems like speed was kind of a focus in this group. Speaking specifically about Ishmael Gibbs, who I know will be a corner that you're working with, 10-600 guy. Jamari Smith, who he's a corner in high school, might play safety here, 11 flat 100 guy. Right. I mean, kind of felt like there was definitely again a focus in that.
Well, so for my room, just speaking specifically in the corner room, if you can't run, you can't play. So that's one of the first things that I look for. You're not going to win them all at the line of scrimmage, so you better have some makeup speed to be able to get that ball out. But Ish can flat out fly. When I went down there in the spring, we go down there to watch those guys practice. He was actually doing track practice, so really good kid. He's been in a good program in Chaminade. Their defensive coordinator played here. He played DB here too, so I had a little hand-in-hand deal with him, and he developed him the right way, and I'm really, really excited to get that guy here early next month and get this thing rolling.
Geographically, of the 23 guys, the closest is David Cuckoo out of Kamiakan High School, a Tri-Cities guy from Kennewick. What can you tell us about what Coug fans can expect from him?
Yeah, you always want to try to build a fence around the state as much as possible. And the biggest thing for him is he's a smooth operator in terms of how he gets down. He's a technician. Coach Dicker got the opportunity to go watch him at camp in June. And all he raved about was his competitiveness. So we need guys like that around. I got the opportunity to go watch him play his first game, and in his league, it's not as talented as some of these other ones, but he did what he's supposed to do and he dominated. So really excited.
Talk about that competitive nature, and it struck me as you said that, and then I'm thinking about what we watched on tape all year with, Ethan O'Connor and Stephen Hall and Jamori Colson on the edge. I mean, like those guys compete, man.
Yep.
Like they're not afraid. They're not afraid of anybody, and I can tell that top down, right, Coach Dicker. That's obviously a huge part of the program. But I got to imagine your room. That's got to be one of the outside of speed, obviously. Number 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, no, there's a standard. There's a standard, and it starts with competing. So these off seasons are huge. When I first got here, that was one of the first things that I drilled on. Like, you're not backing down from anything or anyone. That's just not happening. Man, it came down to the point where it wasn't necessarily see a guy catch the ball and tackle him. It was nobody catches balls. And going into this next season, I'm really excited about the growth that these guys have. They've been throughout this season, but going into the next season is going to get even crazier.
And what a year from Ethan O'Connor. Stephen Hall too, but just when we're talking about young guys and kind of the future of the program, what Ethan O'Connor did as a redshirt freshman, pretty outstanding.
Man, he grew throughout the season, game by game, a ton. And most importantly for him, he grew as a young man. And that took his game to another level. Obviously, he's got a good amount of production with the PBUs and the picks and things of that nature, where Steve doesn't necessarily have that. But Steve literally deleted receivers. So he's they're two different human beings, you know what I'm saying? But both of those guys are special in their own ways.
Yeah, I felt that with when you watch Steve play. It's like that side of the field's good, right? Like there ain't nobody, they're not really throwing that way, and if they are, it's not a ton of completions. There's no doubt about that.
I felt like what a compliment to him because he had been here, a lot of talent in the secondary that he was behind, and when he got the opportunity to move up this year, boy, did he take the ball and run with it.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players that I've ever coached. In terms of his mentality, the things that he's been through, his want to. His growth since I got here, but he's just now scratching the surface, guys. Like this guy he's a special individual, and we need him on our defense as a leader, and we need him. The things that I'm preaching for him is we are going to get the production up, but we're going to get the production up by finding different ways, taking calculated risks, understanding more of the game in terms of our defense versus what the offense is doing and things of that nature. So really excited for that guy's future because he's really close to getting to his ultimate goal in the NFL.
How's it coming along in the pipeline where guys that on the signing day show last year or 2 years ago who maybe there was kind of that top 3 that we saw amongst the cornerbacks this year of a lot of playing time. How are those guys doing who will be pushing for a bigger role in the years to come?
I love our young group. I love our young group. And, for this is one of the biggest things with these bowl game deals. Our prep is like, yeah, we got the old guys, but it's really more so geared towards the young guys, learning what we got going, taking in our scheme, taking in our teaching. Because there's times where these guys don't get to sit in our meetings, the game plan stuff and stuff like that. They're meeting with the scouts because they got to give a good look for the offense. But having these guys being able to be around and learn and hear and ultimately get out there on the practice field and do their thing, man, we got some young pit bulls in there, and I'm excited for those guys.
Alan, great stuff. Thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to these new additions for the Cougs. You'll be able to get your hands on what they can do in the years to come in Crimson and Gray.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys.
Again, that is Alan Brown, quarterbacks coach, joining us here as our coverage rolls on. It is WSU signing day. Here we are from the Cougar Football Complex. A reminder, this is all brought to you by Northern Quest. Northern Quest, earn your bragging rights at Northern Quest with more slot machines, table games, restaurants, lounges, and luxury hotel rooms than anyone else in the region. Northern Quest, yes, the best. Well, kind of an opportunity here to reset the scene. We've already been so fortunate to be joined so far by Jake Dickert, by General Manager of Cougar Football Rob Schlager. We had Pete Caligas on, who works with the defensive tackles, Jared Castor, offensive line coach, Alan Brown right there. Still to come, we'll have Nick Edwards, the wide receivers coach, swing by, and we'll get a chance to talk about those wide receivers. We also had Nick Whitworth join us earlier as well to talk about the tight end, and Joel Diaz-Romero, director of recruiting. So we'll kind of get the recruiting spot. He lives it day in and day out. Not only all these guys live it day in and day out, but those on the recruiting staff really really do. And it's been insightful so far, Alex. It's been fun to hear the stories from everyone, from Coach Dickert on down to the position coaches, about just the makeup and what these guys are like who will be part of the program moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that strikes me, and I've known this because just being around Coach Dickert and this staff, but it gets even more highlighted on a day like today is, the care that these coaches, have in this process, and both with the recruits and then the players once they're in the room, right? Think about guys like Pete Caligus, right? Just talking about how how fortunate he is and the love the love that he has for these young men and the journey he's on with them. And then hearing Alan Brown, he's talking about Steve Hall, not about as a player and a great playmaker, but like the journey he's been on, what he's been through, and he's one of his favorite players ever. Like those things are really cool. It shows you that the staff, particularly when you're in a place like Pullman and at Washington State, right, the connection you build, with the players, I think is really high, and it's a staff that believes in people first. You heard that, and people over kind of the player side of it, and but that leads to production, that leads to high quality players, and just thinking about Coach Brown and what he was able to do with Ethan O'Connor, because the conversations about Ethan O'Connor coming in were not that he wasn't talented enough. It was like, hey, he's got to mature a little bit. He's got to physically, can he hold up? Mentally and emotionally, can he be on an island? As a redshirt freshman, and to his point about him growing up fast and coming along, and he was so productive, but he was also disciplined, and he stayed level-headed, and he stayed in it. And I think that's a credit to coaching and coaching staff and the young men buying into that. And then I felt like you and I talked about this on the broadcast all year. It's like, gosh, corner position's kind of dialed in. Steve and Ethan was great, stepped in, and then Jamori came back in, had an interception against Wyoming, and had production when he got back. So I don't know, like that position group is really strong in my opinion. And hearing Coach Brown say there's even more young guys in the pipeline, plus when you get guys like Ishmael Gibbs and David Kuku coming in, it feels like that's one of those positions that they were able to get the depth they needed quickly, and now you're seeing the fruits of that.
Yeah, and maybe the position more so than any where there had been guys within the program but just hadn't had the opportunity to play. And when you look at what they did with the production this year at the cornerback spot, it was awfully impressive. And I do think back to a point too, Alex, when Coach Dickert was talking, kind of emphasizing, hey, year 3 for the staff of really having the reins of things, that continuity matters. Like, it's not just, hey, this is what our culture is going to be like. You come on your recruiting visit, you watch Cougar football, you tune in for any of the great creative coverage that there is. You see what the culture is like. It is known now what the experience is when you come to WSU.
Yeah, I think that's the piece of it, right, that is really important for player. Again, I'm speaking from a player perspective, right, and like a recruit and a family, as they're going through this, they want to feel like there is continuity. They want to feel like, when they send their young man off to Pullman, Washington, that not only is he being developed as a player, but he's being developed as a person. And I think that's the element of culture that really comes across. It permeates from the staff, and is like, hey, you're going to come here and you're going to develop. You've heard that word a lot, right, today, is you're going to develop as a player, but we're also going to, we're going to develop you as a person also. And those things are going to tie together, and it's going to create production on the field, and it's going to make you a great Coug and do great things on Saturdays. But it takes time to get there, and you gotta get the right people on the bus, and you got to get them on the bus and then in the right seat, right? And that's all part of it.
Yeah, and it takes time. It's development. It takes time. And speaking of recruiting and development, Joel Diaz-Romero joining us now, Director of Recruiting, hopping on the couch with us here at the Cougar Football Complex. And, boy, this is an exciting day for everyone. But I know for you, I mean, is this kind of Christmas morning, that all the shopping, everything that goes into it, all the planning, if you will, using the Christmas analogy, that this is the presents are underneath the tree, and now you're watching them be opened up, and there's a lot of smile faces.
100%. I think it's bigger than just kind of the players. I think last night, kind of going back through it, seeing the huddle tapes and kind of understanding the type of players we're getting here. But it's way bigger than just the football player. It's about the person, right? So this morning, it's 23 families trusting us with critical time and development for these young men getting here at the age of 17 or 18, leaving here at the age of 21, 22. Like, the amount of growth that that's going to happen here in Pullman, Washington, and them trusting us that this is the right spot for that critical time in their life, it means everything to me for a family to look me in the eye and say, I trust you, you know? And so overall, trust me, trust the program. Like, there's nothing like it. So definitely Christmas morning.
It's fantastic. You know, Joel, talk about in kind of your first year here doing this and being involved in this specific role. How does it fit for folks that maybe don't know exactly like how the process happens, right? Where Rob Schlager fits in. You know, there's Coach Dicker, and we kind of and your role and what you're tasked with doing with these recruits.
Yeah, I think Rob's kind of the head man when it comes to essentially that room of recruiting, right? I think the best analogy I can show is like, you have the position coach of a certain position room.
Sure.
Right? Rob is the position coach.
Yeah.
And then it'd be me, Taylor Long, Owen Babler, Kyle Kirkendall. We're the players in it, you know?
Yeah.
And we listen, and the biggest thing is us working together throughout these things, right? You have the scouting side with Owen and Kyle, and eventually it gets to my side. We're communicating with him, and then being on the same page along with having to work with other position groups, as in our staff.
Sure.
Right? So having to work with our coaches and being able to be on the same page there, and then eventually it'll get to Coach Dicker, and then in between that time they come up on visits, have the communications with the family. That's where Taylor comes in.
Got it.
Right, and she does an amazing job. But ultimately it's the communication, it's working together, and being able to just make sure you get to know these people, and at the end of the day there's no such thing as over communication. Right? That was kind of the biggest thing that I focused on when I got this job, was I want to be the best in the country at communicating, right? And so credit to everybody for that, because I think we've communicated great, and it's been amazing. It's been an amazing morning.
I got to follow up on that about the communication and the way you guys have done it, because again, I said this earlier, like this is one of the first days I've walked in on a signing day and like everybody's in, and like I think that's a credit again to the communication. Like, you know, it wasn't easy. I know it wasn't easy, but at the same time, like you guys had the communication, you know, right? And everybody's excited to put pen to paper or send it in, you know.
100%, and that's credit to those guys as well that sign with us, and how excited they are, and it's credit to the position coaches of just keeping communication with them, and just overall, like I've been talking to those guys for so long,
Sure.
but those guys have been ready to sign for so long. Some guys are ready to sign since in the summer, man.
Sure.
Like, and so just even the past couple of weeks, communicating with them, and they've been awesome. Truly a special group of humans that we're bringing into this program, and that's the best part, you know?
Yeah.
Because walking down the hall, seeing them down the hall, and being able to kind of build that relationship and know that they're an amazing person. Yeah. That's the biggest part of it all. And then obviously that's the reason they're here, is that they can do it out there as well, right? And that it complements it really well with those two.
Well, with that, these are 23 guys that are having a day today that they will remember for the rest of their lives. And this is so special to their families. And I know that the communication piece, that you've developed deep relationships with the players, with their families. How cool is it to know that they get such a neat moment in the sun today?
Well, that's the biggest thing I told them when I got on the phone with all of them. It was like, you worked so hard to get to this moment. Take a step back. Like, get 5 minutes today to really understand what you just did, because you're able to look at your parents and go, I'm going to college and you're not paying for it. You know, like there's nothing bigger than that, you know. So and all those guys we have guys that are still playing games, guys that are like, oh, I'm going to work out after this. Okay, cool. I love the grind, and that's what got you here. But at the end of the day, I want today for 5 minutes to really think about what you just did, right? Because it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and they did it. They did it, and that's the best part.
Well, anything else, final thoughts for you here that you want Cougar fans to know about this process? And I know today might be the first day, and hopefully they're hearing for years and years to come about these guys, and they're going to be cheering them on at Giza Field. But anything you want fans to know about just everything that goes on behind the scenes to make this all possible?
Yeah, and again, we have a very, very extensive process that kind of goes with recruiting and with scouting. But at the end of the day, like, this is a place where you identify the player, figure out who the person is, and then ultimately it's really about people who want to be here. You know, a lot of people will sell flash, we sell family, because that's really what we are, right? And so at the end of the day, we feel family is going to win, If we don't get a guy because he's not about what our values are, then he's not our guy, right? You got to want to be here and be about this culture to win some football games, and it'll happen.
Well, that's a good note to wrap this up on. Joel Diaz-Romero, Director of Recruiting for the Cougs. Congrats. I know this is a big day. There's a lot of work. I know. I'm sure a lot of phone calls, a lot of texts, even leading up to this morning. Congrats, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Again, here we are at the Cougar Football Complex. It is our WSU Signing Day coverage. It's presented by Northern Quest. We're going to take a timeout. Still to come, wide receivers coach Nick Edwards will join us, and then we'll be back here with Alex Brink. We'll have our final thoughts on these 23 guys signing with the Cougs. You're listening to our Cougar Football coverage from Learfield.
Santa, is that you?
Oh, in the flesh.
Is that a new sled? It's kind of tiny.
Yeah, it is. I'm delivering Northern Quest gift cards this year. Good for dining, shopping, spa treatments, fine cigars, you name it. They pack so much fun into such a small package, I downsized to this. It gets way better mileage. Besides, hey, it's not the size of the sled that counts, am I right, huh?
Get your holiday gift cards today at northernquest.com.
Coors Light presents To Chill or Not to Chill. When your friend skips your favorite song on the playlist. End of friendship. Or choose chill because that song lives rent-free in your head anyway. And you planned ahead by bringing Coors Light to the party. And the sound of that ice-cold can cracking open was music to your ears already. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
This is the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield.
A mission that matters, a place to grow. Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories is an internationally recognized designer and manufacturer of products that protect and control electric power systems worldwide. Employees are problem solvers, inventors, and doers. At SEL, you can support a mission that truly matters and create a career that maximizes your full potential. Apply to join the growing SEL team today at selinc.com/careers.
This Cougar football tailgating moment is sponsored by Brown Family Vineyards. Brown Family honors the legacy of founder Andrew Brown's late grandfather, William Bittner Brown. Every decision made, from farm to glass, reflects their commitment to premium Northwest wine and spirits. Whether you're visiting one of Brown's tasting rooms or opening a bottle in your own home, Andrew and his wife Courtney welcome you to their extended family where good friends, good food and wine, and good times are always on the agenda. Stop by one of our tasting rooms in Spokane, Walla Walla, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, or Portland and get 20% off a glass this season when you mention WSU.
Our WSU Signing Day coverage rolls on here. We are at the Cougar Football Complex. Chris King next to Alex Brink, and we've got Nick Edwards jumping right in the door, right in the hot seat, wide receivers coach. Thanks so much for being here. And, boy, 3 guys coming in is part of your position group, a 23-man signing class, and 3 of them are wide receivers. We've got a couple of California kids. We've got a Bend, Oregon product. These 3 guys, Sean Embry Jr., Jack Foley, and Noah Westbrook, what can they bring to the Cougar football program?
Man, all 3 of these guys are, as you can see, from their height and weight, they have length. And on our roster, we have, a little bit littler guys. We have mid-side guys, and we want to make sure that we can diversify the room to make sure that we can have, red zone threats and big bodies on third down. And so I'm excited about all 3 of these guys, and all 3 of them a little bit different. Starting with Sean Embry, Sean probably has the biggest upside, of all 3 of them, but he's going to be a little bit underdeveloped right now, body-wise, but where he can grow is tremendous. He has an overall game to elevate at high point balls. He can be slippery, breaking up tackles. His release game is going to come along, and so we're very excited about him. Jack Foley, he's a bigger target. Cougs fans will probably remember this name. He reminds me of Jared Carstetter type.
Yeah, right. Ferris High School.
Absolutely. So he can run, he can catch it, he's strong, he will put you on your back if you allow him to, or if you get close to him. He has a dominant upside. When you watch his hoop tape, like it is impressive. He's dunking on guys. He's super explosive. Like he can take the top off and make 50-50 catches. So I'm very excited about him. Noah Westbrook is in between both of Jack Foley and Sean Embry. Noah, he's a little bit shiftier, right? He, can catch the ball over the middle. He's strong. He can break tackles. He can probably hop in the slot at times, find little pockets in the zone. He's an overall football player with a really good program at Centennial High School in California. So all three of these guys are different, and I'm very, very excited about these guys.
You talked about Westbrook coming from Centennial, great program. Embry's coming from Santa Margarita, where Coug fans, a lot of great players that have come through Washington State, receivers in particular from Santa Margarita. So, certainly programs in California that I know, it's important, right, that Washington State has a presence down there and in Southern California, and I got to imagine it feels good to get two great players out of there.
Absolutely, man, and it was hard. Noah, was going to go on an OV. I think he did go on an OV to Minnesota, and we had to, fight off Minnesota for him. A lot of people kind of missed on Sean, in my personal opinion, from the underdevelopment standpoint. You see, like, the potential of him, but I think a lot of people are going to miss on him. And he is, from a big-time program. His dad was the offensive coordinator, so he's a football coach's son. Right. His uncle coaches at the Dolphins, so they have football blood in them. So he's a football junkie now. Yeah. So these guys are going to come in, and they're all three competitors, and which is the best when, everybody's just trying to fight and scratch and claw to compete, to be the best.
And just to paint the picture, and a couple of notes that the two of you made, Sean Embry Jr., that high school Santa Margarita, you talked about the great Cougs, Clay Thompson, but with that, River Craycraft, Kyle Sweet, talking about the wide receivers, Jackson Potter on the team quarterback is from there as well, Nick Begg, Riley Sorensen, and then Sean Embry's football background, his family, so his dad played tight end at Colorado, his uncle is John Embry. Coug fans would remember that name because he was the head coach for a little bit at Colorado. As you said, he's now with the Miami Dolphins, has a cousin Taylor, who is a wideout at UCLA, now the running backs coach for the Patriots, a cousin Connor, who is a wide receiver at UNLV, now the wide receivers coach for the Chiefs. So this is, football is in his blood.
Absolutely. And so, he, watches film with his dad every night, making sure that he's on point with the schematics and, the importance of the game plan and what they're trying to attack and why they're trying to attack it. So he's going to come in. He was one of the guys, every week, hey, coach, let's watch my film. What do you think? Like, what about this? How would you teach it? And, he asks all the right questions. And getting these guys to be in mid-year is going to help at their development a lot.
Are you excited? All three at mid-year? Do you know yet?
Two of them, I think we will. Nice. I think we're trying to work on a third. It all, with these roster numbers and the portal, all that type of stuff. There's a lot going on, and so hopefully we can get all three. Coach Dickard is, working on that constantly around the clock, and he's a busy man. So hopefully we can get all three.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. Like you talked about the size, 6'4", 6'4", 6'1", definitely addressing, like you said, a space in your room where you can go get. You got a ton of speed last year. Mm-hmm. You got guys both high school and in the portal. They've all made impacts already, and now you go get that size. I got to imagine for you the excitement of as a coach, right? You get to go coach some different skill sets.
Yeah. When I first showed up here at Washington State, it was like Coach Dickard finally saw me in person. He was like, "Oh, we gotta get guys looking like you." I was like, "Come on, sign me up."
Yeah,
sure. But no, man, we need to diversify the room. I don't want to be all big.
Yeah.
Like what Kyle Williams did, I'll take Kyle Williams in a heartbeat. Yeah. So Carlos Hernandez and Chris Hudson and Josh Meredith, Chris Barnes, a different size. So we want to make sure that we find the right people to put on the field, and we can make defense cover a lot of different things.
And just thinking real quick, you mentioned Kyle Williams. What he has done is just remarkable to wrap up the regular season. Him, Kyle Maxwell, but so much of the room has eligibility still in front of them, and add these three guys in the mix.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and I know a lot of guys are ready for their opportunity. They're ready to scratch and claw, and so they're excited. All of them to prove themselves. We're having exit meetings now, and they're all talking about how excited they are for the bowl game, and they're excited for the off season for the development. They're excited for the Taylor complex, so they can actually go in there and get a couple extra work in. And so it's overall positive vibes in our room and inside the building.
I've noticed that with your room and the guys, like highly competitive. They want to work. And candidly, as a former quarterback and you're a former receiver, not all receivers have that mentality, right? And you've developed that culture in that room, so kudos to you for that.
Yeah, that's that's on the players. I think one thing that's Kyle did, and we talked about it. He left a mark in that room, right? And he wants to make sure that room is stay elevated. Yeah. He could have left last year, but it was important for him to stay here. And he did a good job from a leadership standpoint of like, hey man, this is a standard here. And so I know when I believe it was Gabe Marks, when he said that comment about him about the touchdown record, I think that meant something to Kyle. Yeah. And it was important for him and him to seeing that. And I know other guys read those articles, and they want to make sure that they make Coug fans proud as well. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty neat to think. Kyle, and you mentioned Gabe Marks making those comments. So where he's at in the single-season touchdown, record book right now, the only player who has more touchdowns in a single season in program history is Gabe Marks. Yep. So he has found himself in elite company in a lot of ways, but even add into that more so as we got into the down kind of stretch part of this season.
Absolutely. So I know Kyle wants to try to break it. He's eager. He was super, super excited and appreciative, but also mad that, the game that he went over 1,000 yards and didn't matter because, we lost the game. But, he was one thing that he strived for. When you look at it before the season, I think it was before the season, or at some point, he was like one of the top 8 in the country of total yards that's, still in college football, but never being over 1,000 yards, right? So that means he did a lot of work himself with a limited amount of volume, and just kudos to him that, he kept his head up and kept working, right? And so when you even look at his stats from this year to last year, I think he had one less catch, 100 and plus more yards. And so that's on him, right, taking some of the coaching, but more on him just, okay, I got to make sure I maximize my opportunity when the ball's in my hand.
He did some incredible things this year. I think back to a lot of moments. Maybe that catch at San Diego State is just one that comes to mind of just an incredible catch, what it meant in that game, and that we could be here for another 2 hours talking about some of the things he did this year.
Absolutely.
Well, it is so great to have this day today and to celebrate the new guys coming in, get a chance to talk to you about the current guys. The present is bright, the future is bright. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Again, that is Cougar wide receivers coach Nick Edwards stopping by here as we can let you go. I know you got a lot going on, and we appreciate your time, and we'll just kind of we'll put a bow on things here with Alex. And here we go. We got a handful of minutes left, and just listing off everyone again, 23 signees as part of this class for the Cougs. 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 4 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, 2 edge rushers, 2 linebackers, and 6 defensive backs. The breakdown, most from California, 9, 2 from the state of Washington, 3 from Oregon, 3 from Texas, 2 from Colorado, 1 from Nevada, 1 from Nebraska, 1 from Michigan, 1 from Illinois. Alex, I know you chance to talk about this class a lot leading up to this morning, but now that we've got an opportunity to sit down and talk with so many different folks, what strikes you about what you've heard about these guys that are coming in?
Well, we talked about a couple things with the geographic side of it, right? Hit the West Coast as you had to, right? Oregon and Washington, California. That there's definitely that core, but then being able to spread out geographically, get into the Midwest. I think that's going to be a footprint that Washington State can take advantage of moving forward. Obviously, Texas is a strength. I think that part's big. I also look at, we didn't talk about it a ton, but it came up a little bit with Coach Edwards and, with Westbrook, Noah Westbrook with Minnesota coming in late. Jamar Susi, Cal came in late. Cougs beat a number of Power 5 programs for other players throughout this, especially on the defensive side. Beating teams like Arizona, beating Oregon State. We talked about Steele Pizzella having a lot of big-time offers as a sophomore, so he was highly sought after. So just from, the idea that, Washington State being able to go out on the road and still, compete in the recruiting landscape and say we have something to offer, and beating teams like Boise State and Boston College. And, Jack Foley was a Wake Forest commit, and he came back, and so I think those things are always scary as coaches because you just don't know what the perception is nationally, and especially candidly with losing your final 3, you just don't know heading right into signing day. And they were able to again maintain this class, keep these 23 players. So I think those things were big. As I go through that list of kind of as you're reading off, starting with quarterback and Steele Pizzella, you heard Coach Dickert made the joke. He's kind of the mini Mateer idea. But one thing that I think is important, you hear about smaller quarterbacks, and again, it's not prohibitive by any means in this day and age in this game. But you go to the NFL, you talk about hand size, right? It's like a really important thing. And sometimes with smaller players, you're worried about that. Steele Pizzella had almost 10-inch hands, 9 3/4-inch hands, and they put all the quarterbacks on what they call crunch test, like a grip strength test, and his grip strength test was higher than everybody in the current quarterback room. So, even though a smaller player, a guy that big hands, strong grip, it's not going to affect him by any means. And we talked about how he threw it over 70 yards right in a spring workout. So super excited about Steele and his athleticism. Searcy at running back, you heard Coach Dickert gush about him and the idea that they thought they found him early, then he exploded as a senior and people came in late. So I think to get Searcy at the running back position is big time. Wide receiver group, the size, the competitiveness, kind of the upside potential, I think really adds to that room for what Nick Edwards, wants to see. That tight end group, you heard Coach Whitworth kind of talk about, hey, big bodies, really excited about their athleticism, and that's a group that, candidly, that's kind of the last position group it feels like has been a focus, and I think they're starting to fill that room up. I'm super excited about offensive line. I don't think Coach Castor's excited about it also, but we didn't get a chance to highlight guys like Turner Bertrand and Aiden Martin, right? Basketball players that are going to play tackle, 6'7", 6'6". Cougs have had a ton of success with, think about Abe Lucas and Andre Dillard at developing at the tackle position. I think these two could be the next version of that. And I know everybody's excited about Liam Vaughn, the way they call him the Midwest Mauler, getting him out here, kind of Brock Dew 2.0, but really, I think that offensive line group is really special. And then I highlighted it with Rob, the defensive line and the front 7 group. I love that front 7 group they brought in. So overall, I think a really, really, really nice group.
It's been a fun day. 2 hours of coverage. Thanks so much to everyone who made it possible here from the Cougar Football Complex. Jerry Kylo on the audio side, Jared Pringruber on the video side, to Bill Stevens and Bobby Allworth getting us all of our guests. Coach Dickert, Rob Schlager, Pete Caligas, Alan Brown, Nick Edwards, Jared Castor, Nick Whitworth, Joel Diaz Romero. Boy, we had a lot of fun these last 2 hours. Partner, it's a blast as always. We will talk to you next for the bowl game. For Alex Brink, I'm Chris King. For Luke Hallett back in the studio, signing off. This has been the WSU Signing Day Special presented by Northern Quest. This has been a Cougar Football broadcast from Learfield.